Hello and welcome to Her Matters. I am your host. My name is Chioma Omero.
Culture of silence. Again, silence, because if you even try to say, oh, he did this to me, she did this to me, people then say, where's your proof? Are you sure?
Now, what I've seen is parents are not talking to their daughters and their sons. They are not talking to them. So when
people now think that if someone in the medical profession or in healthcare or in that field carries out the process, it would be safer.
The other part of it is the way we structured our healthcare system to actually selectively, remove these preterm medicine vendors out of the entire health loop. We don't officially recognize them, but there's a significant role they have to play.
This is still Her Matters, and we're still talking female genital mutilation, a special episode. So, Rhoda, I have heard the term medicalization of female genital mutilation. I know you've heard it. You're familiar with it, probably. Please tell us more.
Okay. So let me see if I can give a bit of context. Yeah. So basically, when FGM is practiced, especially in traditional communities, hygiene, the tools that they use, the processes that they use, all contribute to the negative outcomes that a girl faces. Remember, I said before that a girl can face things like severe bleeding, swelling, intense pain, repeated pain, infections, keloids, and all that. You understand? So a lot of this comes from the process, the tools, how it's done, where it's done, the stress involved, and things like that. So some people are erroneously of the opinion that if you make the process safer, it is admissible. So that's where the term medicalization comes in. Basically, when anyone in the medical profession or in the healthcare profession are the ones performing the act of female genital mutilation. So that's what is referred to as. Basically, people now think that if someone in the medical profession or in healthcare or in that field carries out the process, it would be safer, which was where the medicalization of FGM. So in a bit to continue the practice, but in supposedly safer environment and setting, and someone that knows something about medicine.
But the first time I ever encountered this concept of then it was, I knew it to be circumcising a girl. I knew that baby boys got circumcised.
Yeah.
But I remember as a little girl watching it was a documentary, I believe, where I saw this old woman.
Yeah.
So they had girls lined up,
and
it was in the village. Because I remember I was young, but I remember this vividly. I remember the girls lined up. This old woman in a hut. And they had a hut for it. So, and then they showed the woman, she had put all her tools out. It was like this one sickle looking like thing that was sharp. There was like a blade. There was, it was just rusty
and dirty.
And these girls were coming in one by one. And then you'd see the girl go into the hut. So you'd hear a scream. And then they're carrying her out. And this was, so all the other girls, and now the look of dread on their
faces, yes.
Because it's like, this is going to happen to me next. And that never left me. I'm old enough now. But that never left me because I still have that
mental picture, right?
My brain that I'm just saying to myself, thank God my family wasn't a family that believed in that kind of a practice. And so we were sort of like saved from it. So when you talk about medicalization, and I'm like, and you know how so I'm saying to myself, so somebody somewhere who does have a license to practice medicine of some sort, maybe a nurse or a doctor, is actually doing this to people.
So that's one of the problems that
There's a Nosbola somewhere who's cutting something.
Yes, there's a Nosbola who resumes in her health facility at 8 o'clock, closes by 5, and goes home and calls Mommy Rashida that she's home now, they can bring their daughters in. And then she performs the procedure with sterilized blades and things like that, giving the feeling that it's safer and it's better for the girl.
But Nosbola is not doing it because
most of the time Nosbola does not care.
Nosbola is hustling.
Most of the time Nosbola is in it for the money.
For the money.
Yeah,
That's
because it is against all medical principles. Every single medical principle to do that. It's against it. That there are guidelines in place that ensure that any health practitioner or healthcare provider found doing that would be severely punished. So Nurse Bola knows that Mommy Rashida would never report her to
For
her
doing
oga.
that.
Exactly. So she's safe doing that as a side gig while she has a normal 9 to 5.
Wow.
And then she convinces herself that if she doesn't do it for Mommy Rashida will take it to the traditional circumcisers who are less hygienic, who know less about it.
So Nurse Bola is your better bet then.
That is what
Mommy Rashida.
that's what she's proposing, which is wrong, because it is not just about the environment or the situation that surrounds or the tools that are being used to perform the procedure. It is the fact that that procedure is even being performed in the first place that is the problem. Because you have call them traditional circumcisers. Right. These are people that most of them, they've inherited this, let me call it a trade, because they get paid as well.
Right.
So they've inherited this trade, they've spent years doing it and all that. So it's the same way a family, it's passed from generation to generation for a family to cut their girls. It's the same way it is passed from generation to generation for somebody to be responsible for that cutting. So they have associations, they have groups, they have trainings that they do. They have, what's it called? When you have a apprentice, they have apprenticeships
who are
learning the trade as well.
Wow.
Do you understand? So it's not about that alone. It's the fact that this practice needs to stop. There is no benefit to it. Every single thought that you think about why it should continue can be countered with something less intrusive, less painful, less harmful to the girl.
No, but I know that you work with survivors of FGM. Well, they are because they made it clear. So, but you also work with, I don't want to call them perpetrators because they're not necessarily perpetrating crime, but they
actually they are.
Are they?
Yes. Female genital mutilation is a crime in Nigeria. Yes.
So they're not supposed to be doing it.
Oh,
okay.
But they're not.
I'm glad you're saying that now.
Actually, they are not.
It's a crime. It's a crime. Don't do it.
Yeah, it's a very big crime of something. So it's actually a crime. So we work with both communities, and when we say communities, that's traditional leaders, religious leaders, community leaders themselves. You know how you have like an older person that is like we work and then we work
of culture.
And they will now work with family heads so that they understand this aspect, because one, they've been living with it, so you need to be able to re-educate them and change them and have them understand why they should stop, and then also understand that if they do not stop, they are liable to go to jail up to 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So anybody who does it, who cuts, takes their daughter for cutting, even in some states, if you volunteer to go cut yourself as part of it, if you suggest that a girl be cut, if you recommend someone to do the cutting, aiding and abetting,
you will still get in trouble.
Yeah, you get in trouble. You understand?
So at least now we know that it's a crime and this should not be happening. So anybody can get in trouble.
Yes, anybody can get, So the thing now is that this culture of silence that exists, that is the problem.
People are still doing it.
Hiding it.
To do it. They are keeping it
hush.
Until
it becomes a serious medical problem that
then it becomes loud.
That's when it becomes loud. Because we had a case where the lady, she had a daughter, and for her to be accepted by the father's family, that's the daughter, she had to be cut. And I think the child was about less than 6 months old. And then so she took the child to the family's circumciser, because most families have their own circumcisers that cut their girls. So she took, and then something went wrong, and the child was running a fever. and was bleeding and everything, and was seriously sick. And she called the circumciser, the traditional circumciser, and he said that most of the time you think it's just females that do it, but male circumcisers. I've actually met more male circumcisers than female circumcisers.
You're joking?
Yes, because we work with a lot of them who are abandoning the practice. So a lot of them are actually male than female, surprisingly so. So, and she called him, and he said that's the normal thing, that after a couple of weeks the child will heal up, that it's just a normal fever. A week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the child was almost dead. She took the child to the hospital. That's when they knew that had happened, and they tried to take care of the child. So at this point, when we spoke to her, she said she really does not know what would happen, because she has spent so much money on that child because of that, and the practice itself cost her just 5,000 naira. She paid 5,000 naira.
5,000 naira to bring yourself a 5 million naira problem.
So right now she's devastated. She's a single mother now because she took the child away. Oh. She said rather than have her child stay there, she took her child away. Yes. And then she's a single mother. She's uneducated. Oh. So she has no idea what's going to happen to her now. That if she had known, she would not have even bothered.
And it just and part of why these sort of issues sort of get on my nerves is because it still boils down to you having the power over your own body, over your own parts, because you have no say in what happens.
That's literally it. That's literally
I mean, boys are circumcised, but even when boys are circumcised, they give them Tylenol, baby Tylenol, there's some medication they get, and we've seen over the years that normally, and for all intents and purposes, male circumcision, they are sore for a bit, but then it heals. But it's different because the female's body, I don't think it's meant to be.
It's not the same physiology.
Yes,
that's the problem.
Yes.
Like in the male circumcision, you're cutting away the foreskin. There is no foreskin.
There's no foreskin.
What foreskin are you cutting away for Christ? You are literally just you are
cutting off body parts.
You are cutting off body parts.
It's like a finger or
and some that say, because we've had instances where we've had circumcisers and excisors say that we don't cut anything, we just prick and all that, and then we go, why in the first place would you even do that? Why? Because there is no reason for it. There is no because if you say if you do not, the family tradition is that if the girl is not cut, she would lead a wayward life. Train her better. We have a lot of girls who are not cut, who are living perfectly good lives. Or we have issues where they say, okay, if this one actually, when I first heard it, when I just started working in FGM, and I heard it, I was like livid. It's to curb the sexual appetite of a woman. And I was like, who gave you that right to do that in the first place? And that understanding that, and that now becomes a problem, because when she is supposed to have that sexual right or sexual activity or sexual enjoy sex, basically, she cannot anymore.
Because you've taken that taken that right away from her.
You've taken it away.
You know what? It can make you really upset.
Yeah. So I've learned to like
your time. But can you tell me now? I want to ask you, with regards to the push for trying to stop this practice, do you think that is there a stronger push from the international community, or is the push from the African community to stop it? Because I mean, I know it's not just in Nigeria.
Okay, so it's not. That's even the first thing. It's not just in Nigeria. It's not just in Africa. First and foremost.
Wow.
Yeah, it's in developed countries as well.
So it's an international situation.
Yes, it is. Wow. It is an international human rights and global health problem. So a lot of push has come from the international community when it comes to countries including in their laws provisions that protect women and girls from female genital mutilation. Like you have different acts, the CEDAW, signing and different policies that exist to ensure that women are protected from all this. In Nigeria, you have the VAP Act.
Right.
Different states have their gender bills and gender-based violence protection laws.
Right.
And states also have FGM laws that are set aside to protect and criminalize the act and then protect women and girls from it, because it happens to both women and to girls at the same time. So we have that international push, we have that national push as well, and then states as well are working, because when, as I said before, Hasty works with all stakeholders. So the different states ministries are all working together to ensure that information goes out there about FGM. The health facilities are able to, during ANC, teach the expectant mothers that FGM is not right. They should not take their girls for cutting. And then also, when they bring them for postnatal care, check to make sure that FGM has not been done, because most of the time it's done before they're a year old, when they're less than 6 months. So you still have that window of opportunity to check and ensure that at every visit you're reminding them not to. It hasn't been as effective as we want it, because we still have that culture of silence. People still do not report. And the thing about reporting is that when a woman wants to report, majority of the time the push for FGM comes from within the family. So some of the times she will have to be going against her family. Hence the what do I do?
Mutilate my daughter. Fight with my family. Mutilate my daughter.
Leave my husband. Do you understand? So it's sometimes very difficult for them to come out and say if it does not become a problem. So that's why we have people we call community focal persons who are trained in FGM, on teaching about FGM, guiding people, providing the right information and platforms that they can call in and report. Because it's easier for them, like we did a survey, and more than 30% said if they could report anonymously, they would.
They would. Nice.
So things like whistleblowing policies also need to be included in our policy, so to show that you can protect them. Because at the end of the day, they report.
It still takes a village at the end of the day. It still takes a village. So that's it has to be all hands on deck.
So look, every partner.
If you want to whistle, if you want to blow the, please blow the whistle. For those of you who know that these things are happening, blow the whistle, blow it hard, so that we can save our girls and women from this horrible, 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 horrible thing called female genital mutilation, and it needs to be eradicated and stop. All right, so let's talk parallels.
Okay.
Are there any other countries in the world that sort of like have these same issues like Nigeria does?
Yeah. So it's not a Nigeria problem. Okay. Look, Nigeria actually contributes up to 10% of global numbers, but we have countries like Somalia who have over 90% of their female population being survivors of FGM. We have countries like Kenya, Uganda, who also have FGM prevalence in the countries, and who also have laws and policies that are fighting
in place to stop.
Exactly. So one other thing is that a lot of people do not know, but in the UK as well, they also battle with FGM. They have about, I think, between 300 to 600,000 cases of FGM yearly, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Wow. And then I think they recently got their first conviction after 40 years of having laws in place against FGM.
After 40 years of having laws in place
for FGM, they got their first conviction in 2019, where a mother was sent to prison for about 11 years for taking her daughter for FGM about it. And then I think it was the medical officers that noticed that, So there was a report, and then it was pushed on, and then after a couple of weeks, they got a conviction. And that's the kind of story that we actually want in Nigeria as well. So when there is a case, let people report. Because it's hard for you to enforce a law if nobody is reporting.
Right.
So we all have to take
all
on
of us,
that
everybody.
responsibility.
Yes.
Because if you hear about it, you can actually stop it before it gets carried out.
If you hear about it and you don't do it,
You are
bad as
abetting.
the person that is doing it.
Yes.
You are bad as the perpetrator
So,
of the crime.
and
If
you-
you hear about it and not saying anything,
Exactly.
you are just as bad.
Yeah, so please report,
please.
because you can be saving a girl's life at that point. We had a case where a neighbor reported to one of our alliance, like the organizations we work with on ending FGM. So it's called an End FGM Alliance across the states we work in. And then one of the alliance members said somebody reported that a family, a relative, is about to take their child for FGM. And then she came in and said if they do that, they are going to report to the police and then they will get arrested, because there was knowledge about the law.
Right.
So they knew it was going to happen, so they did not do it. What does that mean? They've saved that girl's life.
No.
Just by reporting. Just by saying, don't do this. If you do this, you will go to jail. And people do not want to go to jail. Life is hard enough without adding jail inside for something that you can live without.
When you have to go and talk to communities and stuff, I know that you guys face obstacles like, for example, language.
Yeah.
I know it's a major obstacle, and I know that there are many other ones, but this language, because it affects communication. So how do you help, or how does your organization try to overcome some of these obstacles? How do you walk through it?
So first and foremost, like I don't have a tongue for language. Like I literally can speak just English.
Oh wow!
I understand some.
You should be more like me. Bilingual, trilingual, quadrilingual, multilingual.
My brain is quadrilingual.
My
brain,
but
my mouth is just one way. It doesn't speak any other. So I understand. I have seen how communication can just stop in the middle, and you can see that this person does not understand what you're talking about. So what we do is that we do not go into the communities. We work with the community itself. Identify people who are what we call them influencers in the community. That they can move opinion, they can move thoughts, they can push for behavioral change, and then we engage those people. We try as much as possible to engage them. We always engage in the local language. We do not, like if we're working in a Yoruba community, we work in Yoruba. We speak in Yoruba. Our materials are in Yoruba and in English. So, for instance, we created a learning material on the different laws about female genital mutilation that exist in Nigeria. And we translated that to Yoruba.
Oh, nice.
And then we also use pictures and images to convey the same message. So even if you can't read English, you can't speak English, you can't read Yoruba, you can see pictures that say you report, you do.
Some people are visual learners anyway.
Exactly. So we try as much as possible to incorporate different communication strategies into it. We created a radio program in the local language, in Yoruba, on FGM, talking about different aspects. And we are not the people going into the communities, because if change needs to happen, it needs to happen from the inside. So the focal persons within the communities who have been trained, who have walked through the process with us, who understand the dangers and the problems, who the community members relate to, have a personal understanding.
Yes.
They know the grandfather of somebody, your cousin and my cousin. They will listen to those. They won't listen. I am not a member of your community, so you would not listen to me. We've actually been accused of bringing a white man's philosophy to a local community. So if it is a community member, someone who you respect, it's easier to push that message across and say that, okay, this person has seen. And that's why it's important to also engage the community and traditional leaders, because they are the custodians of tradition. So if they understand you, if they accept that message, they can push that message down. And most people accept what has been accepted at the higher level, depending on who they believe on, who they follow. So that's the way we kind of go round that barrier. So sometimes it's not just a communication barrier because of language. It might be a communication barrier because of different values, different way of understanding things, and different acceptance of who you are.
And what you're telling me, an understanding of what you're telling me.
Exactly.
Do you have to sometimes compensate these people? Do people volunteer?
You would be surprised that a lot of people volunteer for this, because a lot of people want change. A lot of people have had bad experiences. A lot of people have seen
they don't want it to happen to
people
them.
die. Yes. Like we've seen, like a focal person in one of the communities we work with, because we work in about 72 communities. She said that she had the neighbor's daughter died because of everything, and it's something that could have been prevented. Do you understand? But because they did not want to report, everybody, the normal thing is that everybody falls sick after the process.
Yes.
So because they did not want to report, it now degenerated into a very serious thing, and they lost the girl because she bled a lot and she went into shock and things like that. So they lost. Actually, the man was like, "Why should that continue? And why should they keep losing?" And nobody will say it's because of. They won't say it out.
And there's so many of victims and survivors of female genital mutilation who are even, let's talk about this issue of stigmatization, because they don't want to say I was mutilated or I was cut, because people might look at me some type of way, or and I'm sure even people that maybe in a community where majority of the people have, and then the person that has not now feels weird.
That
because
is such a problem.
Haven't.
Yeah, that is such a problem, because one, on this side of the screen, where you understand what has happened to you, talking about it is very difficult, because it's extremely personal. It's a personal experience in a very private part of you, and it's because it's usually someone in your family that has done it to you. It even makes it more difficult to talk about. So you do not want to say it. You don't want to talk about the trials you've been through. You don't want to talk about if everybody is talking about, they did this and then you can't share that experience as well. You most likely lie about what you feel about. Do you understand? So you don't want to say that this has happened to you. On this side of the screen, you do not want to say that you have not been caught, because then social acceptance gets threatened. You run the risk of being ostracized from your community. Your family runs the risk of being
looked at some type of way. So in that community, you are now
the outcast.
Exactly.
You are the outcast for doing the right thing in a community that needs to change. So you are facing that double discrimination that you have to deal with.
I figure out what battle you want to fight. Being ostracized in my community, cutting my child, or letting my child be cut.
You don't have to weigh that.
I have to live here for the rest of my life in this community with these people. My daughter has to live here. So it's
and the battle is, and one other thing that adds to that battle is that when you try to explain that one of the reasons you are doing this is because you do not want your child's future to be affected, they point out that there are a lot of women who have gone through.
Are you the first person?
Are you the first person? Of
course, you know we like to do that. It's not only you.
Is that why are you trying to be different?
Why are you trying to be difficult?
But nobody tells you what they're going through. They don't share that audio. There was a meeting we had where someone said that she went through it, she's fine. The sister went through it, she's fine. And I was saying that, thank God you are fine. If you were not fine, this would not be the conversation we were having. Because you are fine does not mean the girl out there is fine as well. No. You have just been lucky enough to be fine.
We have a lot of learning to do.
So it's different experiences contribute.
We have a lot of relearning. We have a lot of unlearning. We have a lot of orientation, reorientation, disorientation. We need a lot of things. Disorientation,
and it starts.
I'm not even sure. But we need a lot of and learning.
We shall need all the information to come back in the right way.
Wow.
And I think it starts with us, because we have the platform, we have the knowledge. We need to start going out there and pushing it out that this is wrong.
Yeah.
There was a time that twins killing was wrong.
Yeah. Now we realize.
Now we have like artists that are twins and are making.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
So imagine if they had been killed.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have that. So it's time for us to move past a tradition that does harm and embrace saving and protecting our girls, and everybody has a part to play, from ensuring that they have the right information, from reporting when you see it, and ensuring that people know that it is a crime and they can get support.
And us who have some information that can at least help disseminating it.
Yes,
and
disseminate, push it out there.
So that the world knows that this is bad. And it's just about us being better. And you know better. You will be better when you know better. Because when you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
And that's the whole objective. Rhoda, thank you so much. Thank you so much for just coming and expounding on this issue. I
Thank you.
A whole lot more than I thought I did, because I thought I knew about FGM. I've learned.
I'm still learning.
This me and you discussion happening, I have been Rhodaized. Rhoda has Rhoda me with information about FGM. So there's some things that I know that I didn't know before.
You should trademark that.
And Hasty Health Initiative, as usual, coming through with the experts and the expertise, you know? So I'm so happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
So much.
It's my pleasure.
And that's our show for today. I'd like to say a big thank you to our principal partners, Worthy. We'd like to say a big thank you to the Herbert Wigwe Foundation for giving us this wonderful space. And of course, Hasty Health Initiative. Until the next episode, stay safe and take care of yourself.